then director for the E.W. Scripps School of Journalism. And I have to say, well, I moved here from Seattle back in 1987. And before Seattle, I lived in New York City, where I did my undergraduate work. And I quickly realized what a great university Ohio University was to be affiliated with. And over the years, I've had to admit to people how jealous I am of the students and the alums of Ohio University. So even though I'm technically not a Bobcat, I do believe I have morphed into one. Recently, I saw one of my alums have a tweet about promoting Rufus for president, and I thought, yes, I think all Bobcats could get behind that campaign. Today, we have two Bobcats who are actually related to each other, and yes, I know all Bobcats are related to each other in a fashion, but these two are actually related by blood, and I will introduce the first one. Eileen Sheil is with us, joining us from her home in Cleveland, Ohio. And Eileen graduated from the school back in the early years of my career. So we go way back. Eileen, it's wonderful to have you here. Eileen, for a long time, worked for Cleveland Clinic as head of PR there, and more recently took a job with Medtronic, which is based in Boulder, Colorado, but is working from home right now. So Eileen, welcome to this Bobcat chat.
Well, thanks for having me. It's so good to see you, Bob. I always enjoyed many years learning from you, and being around you is just a fun experience. So it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Can you just tell us a little bit about why you went to Ohio University back in those early years?
Yeah, I always I knew I wanted a job in communications, and, the Scripps Journalism School was always, top notch. And I think over the years, just really thinking about, where I wanted to get the broadest experience. I visited Ohio University and obviously fell in love with the campus. It's just stunningly beautiful, but the academics in the journalism school are top notch, and it's just been amazing to me to see over the years how it's evolved. And I think just really the undergraduate degree, how it really prepared you for, the turn that your career will make, throughout the years after you graduate. Looking back, I just felt very well prepared to, really tackle the turns and curveballs that came my way throughout my career. So that's part of it.
And could you have imagined back when you graduated that you would be in the kind of position or have the kind of career that you have enjoyed and thrived in?
No, I think that was part of what I was trying to say, is that your career path takes so many curves and turns and unexpected pathways. And looking back, the seriousness of the journalism school, they really taught you key elements of communication from, the advertising, the PR side, the attention to detail, and really, taking your career and your education seriously. I was very fortunate to run communications at the Cleveland Clinic for many, many years. And that opportunity really expanded into a global job. And moving to Medtronic in early March of this year, again, my communication role at Medtronic, which is one of the largest medical device companies in the world, I'm on frequent issues related to COVID-19 with, my counterparts in Brazil and Mexico and all over the place. So I think it's really helped me build a solid foundation that you really don't appreciate until you're in your career.
Well, I'd like to introduce our other guest today, and you know her very well, your daughter, Lauren Sheil. And Lauren is with us also from Cleveland, just in a different room in the same house, because sheltering in place meant moving back home from campus. So Lauren, we're glad to see you're safe and sound, and welcome to Bobcat Chat.
Thank you so much, Dr. Stewart. So as you said, this is my mom, Eileen Sheil, and my mentor, actually, Dr. Stewart, who I met, I think, the first week when I came into your office as a freshman, panicking about, the future. So I am actually graduating this fall with a major in strategic communications and minors in finance and marketing. And then I have certificates in global leadership, which was thanks to Dr. Stewart, social media, and business analytics.
So this is obviously a special opportunity to talk to a mother-daughter combination, and one of our goals in this Bobcat chat was to have an alum and a student. And when the idea was pitched to me, I immediately thought of the two of you because I think you're both wonderful representatives. I should have mentioned that Eileen is a member of the Board of Trustees for Ohio University, so she is in the tall weeds dealing with all the challenges that the university faces. So first of all, I want to say thank you for your service to the university and bringing all of that experience with, to bear as a member of the board. But before, we don't necessarily need to get into that, but I do think it's very interesting to people who are listening today and watching today to think about a mother and daughter who are majoring in something very similar, a generation apart. What kind of conversations do you guys have about your respective experiences?
Yeah, first of all, I'm so glad Lauren is at Ohio University. I couldn't make me happier. But what is really fascinating is that her passion for communications is really parallel to what mine was back in the day at OU. And so to see what she's learning and how she's building that educational foundation with the minor in marketing and finance. I mean, now, I work for an organization that really, requires you to have a better business knowledge of what's going on in the world. Communications, the role of a communicator has changed significantly from the time that I was in school. So I love that, she's really building a strong educational background that's giving her skills. That global leadership certificate is really about, being able to step into that international communication role. So I think that's cool. And we talk a lot about it. We do. I learned from her about, how she's building her education. And then I can share, war stories about work and the kind of real issues that I'm facing in a crisis communication situation. And we just enjoy talking about it. Lauren, what's your perspective?
Well, I think it's really interesting in my mind to kind of see, so I recently, actually this past semester, picked up the business analytics certificate. And part of the reason I did that was because my mom always talked about how vital and important it is, especially in these for-profit and any kind of business, to show how communication works. It's not as easy and connect the dots as finances about making money, but it's important to show your value to a business. So I thought that taking an analytics certificate would be really beneficial. And that's something I learned from connecting with my mom, but also just connecting with professionals in general. I think it kind of helps you build your career if you can kind of keep an eye out on where the future is going, instead of just looking at what you're supposed to learn now, but what you should learn 5 years from now or 10 years from now, because the world's evolving. And I think that everything going on with the COVID-19 pandemic right now shows you have to look for 5 steps ahead, because the world is going to change quicker than you think. I mean, 6 months ago, I never thought that I would not be at OU right now taking a finals week and taking finals online. I thought that I would probably be at school panicking, studying in the library and everything. And instead I'm sitting on my couch downstairs. And I think that it's just a really interesting kind of thing to keep in mind, that communications is evolving like many businesses right now, but at a rapid pace to international, but also online, and kind of figuring that all out. So it's a really important to see. And it's interesting to talk to my mom and say, okay, there are some things that are very similar from when I go to OU back to when she went to, and then there's stuff where we talk about the differences. So that's kind of a unique experience to be able to talk to my mom and understand the differences between OU now and how it was back in the 80s.
So let's talk about what the differences are. Since you mentioned that, I'd be pretty interested, because my career has spanned that whole time period, and sometimes I can't really remember back that far. So remind me what it was like back then.
I think the role of communications, it was simpler back then. It wasn't, the media was very traditional. It wasn't digital. It wasn't 24/7. You didn't have to react as quickly, as fast. There wasn't the technology driving the speed and rapid pace at which you have to communicate. You just have to move faster. And, I think the skill set's a little different too. I think there's a heavy emphasis on being more strategic about communication. When Lauren chose her major in Stratcom, strategic communications, I thought, they didn't have that back in the late 80s when I was there. And that's such a vital piece of what I do every day. I think, Lauren touched on analytics and metrics. I mean, you do, especially in PR, you have to be able to, and internal communications too, have to be able to demonstrate the value of communications on the organization and how does it really help drive business strategy, employee engagement, and those are really, really important roles for communicators. And I think, seeing the journalism program really grow and add, tremendous resources and new aspects of communication, it's really grown to an important place, and it's a valuable way for students to learn today to be prepared for the careers they're going to face in the future.
In a more kind of fun-spirited thing, I love walking with my mom, and when you go on the gates and enter College Green, and there's just this connection where you talk to different Bobcats. I've met people through internships or just through professionals who come to visit OU, and talking about, okay, you go to different, like Halloween at OU, or talking about like different things of like, okay, oh, do you remember like when you see that statue up on College Green, or you're talking about going down the escalators at Baker, and you're like, you just talk about the campus, and it's like you see each other there even if you're miles away. And I think that's cool that my mom can picture where I'm at, but also fellow Bobcats and professionals can network and understand that kind of connection. Like walking down Court Street, you're still in the campus when you're walking out of the campus, and how the city and the college are just ingrained together. It's really a cool experience, especially to share that with your mom, but to share just that, like, that deeper bond of being excited about where you go to school and where you learn, but also where you learn about yourself, not just your education, is kind of a really cool experience. So,
I'm glad you brought that up, Lauren, because I think one of the things that doesn't end when you graduate, what's special about being a Bobcat from Ohio University is that deep connection that you keep with other Bobcats and other alumni. Just this event today that we're participating in, a lot of alumni reached out saying that they were going to be watching. So, it's just, there's a connection, and you're always going to help a fellow Bobcat if they need help, and you'll bump into them on LinkedIn and other places. And there's just a familiarity and a desire to want to help them with their careers. If a student reaches out to me and they're an Ohio University student, of course I'm going to drop everything and help them. It could be just a conversation or open a door for them. And I think that's a special thing that Bobcats do for each other.
And I also love, oh, sorry, Dr. Stewart.
Go ahead, finish that thought. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I also love, like, this is such a weird thing, but it's something I noticed visiting different schools where my friends go, but also compared to here. At OU, people, of course, there's a ton of people from all walks of life and variety, but you walk up to people and everyone is so inviting and welcoming. And, I have friends in every single college. And part of that's because I've gotten involved and stepped out of my school and my college, but I have a ton of friends in the School of Journalism and the College of Communications, but I have friends who are in the College of Engineering and Arts and Sciences and College of Education and Music, and all of these different aspects of all over how they think, how they plan, how they're learning their education. And I have that because I've made those connections through different aspects of my education, but also everyone's really welcoming and inviting. Like, I can message any of my friends or walk over to their house or where their dorm, and I feel welcome even if they're completely different than I am. And I think that's something that's really special.
Well, Lauren, one thing I'd like you to talk about, you both have talked about international, and a year ago, you were part of a group of students who was getting ready to get on an airplane and travel to Cambodia with the Global Leadership Center. And obviously that's a very interdisciplinary program with students from a lot of different majors. And it's also taking you to a faraway culture. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that program and that trip as a kind of a mind expanding, horizon expanding experience. And what all did you do on that trip?
Oh, for sure. Well, so that was through the Global Leadership Center, which actually Dr. Stewart encouraged me to get involved in my freshman year, and I signed up and started that last my sophomore year, and then I just finished this semester. And when we went to Cambodia, the first thing is we spent an entire semester kind of preparing for the trip, learning the language through a 1 credit hour class. So they're not day, but it's a very it was really interesting. I always have loved traveling, but Southeast Asia is one of the places in the world, I would argue, that is the most different from American culture and Western culture itself. And when we traveled it's a 13-hour flight, and then you're on another 5-hour flight, and it's a long, long trip. And I traveled with a couple other students, and we made it there, and you walk in, and it's like walking into the set of a movie. It's completely different than anything I expected. The climate, the food, the culture, the atmosphere, and it was, we arrived, I think, at 10 o'clock at night, and it was completely blistering hot. And I was just stunned. I felt like I was in Texas, but it was even warmer than Texas. So I was instantly intrigued by the people there. I think that's something that I'll carry with me the rest of my life. The kindness that I experienced in Cambodia was something I have yet to experience in another culture, in another place. People were welcoming. These people who really, they did not have a lot. They don't have what an average American would have to take home a week. You see trash on the streets. They don't have the same thing here, but they have stuff that we don't have as well. And I think that was a really important and eye-opening experience. Just because a culture is different than your normal doesn't mean that they're less than you. And I think that it's really important to kind of step into the role of understanding the world is global and different cultures aren't necessarily bad. I also learned a lot about working with different teammates. There was such a language barrier, but I actually felt that made the challenge more exciting. I learned things from students across the world that I would not have learned in a classroom. And we worked with different teams from the American University of Phnom Penh, which is in the capital city of Phnom Penh in Cambodia. And I actually became really close friends. It's actually May, my friend from there's birthday. So right before this, I actually was telling her happy birthday. But I learned things about the economic situation over there and the history over there, which if you have a chance to look into Cambodian history, please do, because it's very fascinating and it's intertwined with American history. And I think that it was really cool to be able to go to the shops and meet the people there. We went to the Cambodian market, which was really exciting. It's a hodgepodge of foods and places to buy clothes and knickknacks, and it's where there's a lot of life there in Cambodia. We traveled through Angkor Wat, which is one of the 7 wonders of the world, and it's these ancient temples that are huge of Hindu and then also Buddhist descent, and they're just absolutely beautiful. So I think, long story short, it was an eye-opening experience to me to travel across the world and across cultures, but it also felt like coming home at the same time. And I think it really drove home that age-old point that home is where the heart is. And you realize that you can make friends with people who have lived completely different lives than you wherever you are. And
can I jump in, Lauren? I think from a career standpoint too, you realize how small the world is. And, your point about working with different cultures, communication is very different in different parts of the world. And I think, being exposed to an educational program overseas, I think is so beneficial to students because that too plays a big role in how we communicate. Bob, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, when you think about the pandemic being something that really has tied the whole world together, there is no one really immune from the threat of the pandemic. And I think if you have had a global experience, it makes it easier to wrap your head around that, and also to realize how a virus could travel so easily, because of course we get in airplanes that travel all over the world, and so could a virus. But it also helps us be, I think, more sympathetic with the plight of other people who might be facing the pandemic, not just those of us in the state of Ohio or New York City or New Orleans, but really we do have a more global perspective on that. And I think every company, frankly, would want to hire someone, who has a larger horizon than if you've never stepped foot out of, your comfort zone.
Right. I think it also helps you appreciate different, like in the journalism school, appreciate different ways that cultures communicate, which are different from the United States. And, being patient and understanding and learning how to best communicate in a global organization, especially around, a crisis situation, like you mentioned. It's a way to bring people closer together and really be sympathetic to the struggles that everybody has.
Now, let me ask you too, you guys are Bobcats through and through. So I think you're great sources of information. And then we have some questions that are coming. We'll get to those in a moment. But it always has struck me that Bobcats are a very kind group of cats. Bobcats they care about each other. I mean, this is my experience in the School of Journalism anyway. And it appears to be beyond the School of Journalism, certainly into the College of Communication, but into the other parts of the university as well. And I wonder if you could each maybe give an example of something that you would describe as Bobcat kindness.
I could probably give a alumni perspective. You're right. There's something different, something special about being a Bobcat, and it attracts a certain kind of person. And it is somebody who has a big heart, caring, serious about their studies, adventurous. Bobby mentioned that I joined the board, and it's been such an honor to serve the university and help in any way. But I also got reconnected to the Alumni Association. And, that's a big, powerful organization that really, really cares about Ohio University. So I just think, that bond you have on campus when you're a student just transcends to after graduation. And it's so pleasurable to be connected closely to the university. And I think most alumni feel that. And it's because of the people, it's because of the faculty. You and I stayed in touch quite a bit over the years, and that's a special relationship that you want to keep with your faculty, your friends, and your mentors. Lauren, do you want to?
So one of the things I have a lot of examples, but the two that I'll share is the first one was when my mom, when we went touring, when I decided for orientation I was coming to Ohio University, she said the parents and students split up. And my mom said, "Oh, I know the university." She did not remember it as well as she thought. And I got lost. And there were multiple people who helped me try to find out where my mom was on campus, not knowing anything. And it was really, really wonderful to be able to walk up to people, or people would see me with my bright neon green bag and say, "Are you lost? You need help." And I think that was really special. I met someone who was a senior who was studying physics and in a band. And then I met actually my current boyfriend. And then I met a couple other students, and they were just really, really helpful. And that was a wonderful experience to be able to have all of these people you didn't know come up to you and try to help you. When you're lost, they instantly thought, this person's at orientation, they're scared, they're overwhelmed, they've probably never been on a college campus before, and having them help you. And another really great experience that I had was my freshman year. The first class I actually had was Introduction to Italian. And language classes often cross all different colleges. And I was super nervous. I sat front row, and the girl behind me and I turned to each other, and her name is Lily. And we were both nervous. She's a bio major. She's about to go to OSU to become an eye doctor. And we sat and we talked, and we became lifelong friends because we both realized the other person was just as scared to be there and wanted a friend. And we were out of our comfort zone. And it was really, really cool to kind of have that unique bond to turn around and see that, even though you're crossing college lines and you're crossing different aspects, you're meeting people because everyone there wants you to feel welcome. And I feel that way every time I walk into a finance class where I don't know anyone, or a marketing class. People want you to feel welcome, even if they've known each other for years and you're the new kid in the room. And I think that's a really special experience at Ohio because it is a liberal arts university. So you're working with different people from different backgrounds. One of my closest friends is an engineer, and we traveled to Cambodia together. And it was something where we met through the GLC, and we would have had a class together if we hadn't decided to take the global leadership class together. So I think that's kind of a unique thing, is a lot of people at OU are go-getters, and you get to meet people because everyone is trying to better themselves.
So we have some questions that have come up, and for those of you who have sent a question in, Some of these are in areas outside of my expertise and possibly outside of Eileen and Lauren's expertise, because they're about different parts of the College of Communication. I do want to say that if we don't get to your question, we will follow up with you and make sure we get you answers to your questions. But there are two that I specifically want to start with, because I can answer these questions. And the two of you can chime in if you want to. I don't want to take time away from our guests for sure. Tim Mernon asked if one of us could talk about our journalism curriculum that is the more traditional side of journalism as opposed to corporate communications, noting that the industry is changing very quickly, and how are we adapting the curriculum. I don't want to get too far into the weeds on this, but I will try to briefly describe how the journalism school has tried to adapt. You know, when I came to OU, that was before the World Wide Web was around. And one day I went to the library for an exhibition of the World Wide Web, you know, Mosaic, the old browser, the original browser. And what I saw on the screen was something I'd never seen before, which was over the internet, a depiction of a painting. You know, my version of the internet before had just been Telnet, which most people haven't even heard of, but it was just text. We didn't really understand that it was going to revolutionize how media work, but in fact, that was a kind of a recreation of a new printing press and a new technology. So when you think about the School of Journalism students who started before the World Wide Web and then graduated after the World Wide Web, you know, in the 4 years that they were at Ohio University, the world of communication had exploded with this new technology. And you could say the same thing about social media starting, you know, a decade ago. These are technologies that turn everything upside down in our world. They turn the business model upside down, and you know we're seeing all of that play out and the ramifications of that playing out. When we switched from the quarter system to the semester system in 2012, one of the things that we did at the strong urging of our various industry people that we talked to, my professional advisory board, and just the collective of the faculty, what we wanted to do was to create a much more flexible curriculum than what Eileen would have had when she was here studying public relations. And you know, that was the lane that Eileen sort of had to stay in, with a couple of electives here and there. But basically, you were going to be a PR person because you were in the PR sequence back in that day. Yeah. But we wanted to create a system that was much more organic and able to flow in and out of. It was easy to change your track nowadays. We have two tracks: the strategic communication track, which is Lauren's track, and if Eileen was, you know, a student today, that's the track she would be in. The other, go ahead.
Go ahead, Bob. Sorry. I would just add from a person in a position to hire people, I'm seeing students come out of college with a much deeper, broader skill set than when I was in college. And that's terrific. I mean, I don't hesitate to go to some of those younger students that are graduates rather, and tap them for their creativity and their ideas and their experiences that they've had in a university setting that they have not, you know, that many of us have not had in a real world situation. So you can tell that the curriculum has grown and changed and evolved to a point where it's really preparing students, no matter what journalism track you're in, for what's happening in the world today.
And going off that, just to kind of from a student perspective, if you want to talk about, I know I'm not in the news and info track, but if you're interested in that, I think it's really interesting that you get a unique perspective of history, but you also like learning from the past and understanding current media as well. But also if you throw in some like with the social media and understanding that and how that works, that's a huge benefit. I mean, we have a really large social media certificate program at OU, and I think that's another like large benefit that goes into the aspect of being a journalist itself. And I can just tell you, I've taken some of the news and info classes. My writing and my professional communication skills have grown in incredible amounts since being even just a freshman at Ohio University. And my friends who are in the news and info track love the classes, love the professors, but also they love, you know, learning their connections and being able to write at huge publications And one thing that I absolutely love about OU, even though I am not in the news and info track, is the clubs that are connected through the School of Journalism and the College of Communication. We have so many huge organizations that allow you to work as a freshman on these actual real life press releases, if you want to write articles, if you want to be on the newsroom, there's a ton of different things that you can get involved in to get hands-on information as soon as you step in the door. So I think that's another really unique thing about both sides of the School of Journalism, but it's not just in the School of Journalism, it's across campus. So just saying that as a student, that's something that was really interesting.
Yeah, and Tim, I'm happy to follow up with you offline as well. And I'm still on the clock until the end of May, so I'm happy to talk about that in more detail. Joseph Korzanowski asked, within our communication college, are there classes or organizations for sports broadcasting? Now, I could do a whole Bobcat chat about that. I will try to keep this short because there are some other questions that we'll try to get to as well. But yes, at WOEB, there are several sports programs that students can get involved in, as Lauren said, starting as a freshman. Gridiron Glory has been around now for 20 years. It is a Student Emmy Award-winning program. Every year it wins, the top sports program for our region for the Student Emmys. And the reason it's such a wonderful growing space, kind of a sandbox for young sports broadcasters, is because they get to be involved starting right away. And we've had students who got involved as a freshman, and after their freshman year, they got an internship doing baseball summer play-by-play as far as away as Alaska. So that experience that they were getting their freshman year on Gridiron Glory, before they ever stepped foot in a broadcast journalism class, obviously was instrumental in them preparing themselves for their career. We also, starting about 3 years ago, we became an ESPN site when the MAC signed a contract with ESPN. So within our curriculum, in the major is called electronic media, and our students can choose that as a specialization area. So if they want to be working on ESPN broadcasts, doing sideline camera work, sideline reporting, the actual truck, the production truck jobs, all of those are being done by students. So you can get 3+ years of ESPN experience on top of the Gridiron Glory, plus you can do a specialization in sports administration, which is in the College of Business. So you have tremendous opportunities in sports broadcasting, plus the local for-profit radio station, WATH, they do a lot of play-by-play of high school football. You may have heard of this guy, Joe Burrow. I don't know if you've heard of it. He's kind of a thing. Anyway, the students who were working on those broadcasts, they got to cover Joe Burrow as a high school player. So pretty good stuff. Let me reference a couple more questions here. Juliana Rittenberg says, can you talk about other communication majors like communication studies major and what they set you up for? And can you also touch on internships? This is a little out of my wheelhouse, but here's my understanding of it, and I think we can easily put you in touch with people who know more about it. But communication studies is really for people who want to work within an organization doing organizational communication. If you're in the strategic communication track in journalism, you're looking at outward-facing communication. If you're in organizational workcom, as they call it, you're looking at communication within. They also have a very strong health communication track. So imagine right now that for students in the communication studies, health communication sequence, they are very focused on looking at how all these professionals are within organizations and externally about COVID-19. They also have courses on event planning. And Lauren, I don't know, do you have any friends in the comm studies?
Yeah, no, definitely. And the other thing is comm studies is also, there's a lot of different tracks. You would definitely want to get in touch with someone who has more expertise on it. But communications and comm studies, it's a great program. There's a lot of stuff that's a little bit more, I wouldn't say more specific, but more almost tunneled down to a certain thing than the journalism school is. Nothing like not negative or bad, just kind of what you're looking for. Like you said, health communications. A lot of comms students also pair it. They do a lot of things where you might be a comms major and minor in finance if you want to do finance communication. Or kind of it's more of like you can kind of pick your butter for your bread more likely. But it's a good track. And like I said, there's a lot of people who are in comm studies who are also in a ton of the different clubs that I mentioned before. PRSSA, which is one of the largest, I think, in the country, at OU, which is a public relations student society of America. Then there's Thread Magazine, The Post, which is a huge student newspaper, and all of these other different organizations for comm studies as well. So I think that that's a really interesting kind of track, but definitely get in touch with someone who kind of, as Dr. Stewart said, it's more their wheelhouse.
Yeah, we can facilitate that. Caitlin Miller says she's a student from outside of Kansas City. Welcome, from the great state of Missouri, and would like and likes OU, and what she likes about the media management program is its music management and musical artist related studies. Could we touch on that and internships? One of the things that I have been able to do as the director of the journalism school is to collaborate with folks in that discipline of media, the media school, and music management, specifically music production, is a spring colloquium or spring symposium that brings in musicians and music journalists to talk about that industry. We also have a hands-on media outlet called ACRN, which is a great opportunity to develop DJ skills, but also on their website, there's a lot of great music journalism being done by journalism majors, which is very, very collaborative. But there are some wonderful studio spaces in the RTV building for the music production students, and my band even played in there once and was recorded in there by a student. My son's band recently was recorded, a live session was recorded. So it's a wonderful space. It's like a lot of different sandboxes with all these different possibilities. Now, internships, I want to talk about a media program specifically, and that is their semester in LA program, because a lot of our graduates in that area are getting jobs in the LA market because they did the LA program, for the media program in LA, the Hollywood program. We've seen many students, reluctantly come back to campus or even finish out their studies in LA by taking online courses because they were given job offers and they wanted to just stay put at the end of their internship. So I would definitely check out the semester in Hollywood, the semester in LA program with the media school. Let's see.
Well, touching on internships from a student perspective, another thing is joining these organizations and also making friends. First of all, we have amazing letters that come out from the college, but also from the School of Journalism, and I'm sure other schools and colleges in the university do this, about internships that you can apply for. Another thing is just word of mouth, asking your friends, asking your peers. You can find a lot of internships that way. And another thing is connections. I think, Dr. Stewart is an incredible connection, talking to alumni, going to events that are held by people who come just to speak at OU or who are looking for interns. The career fairs are always great opportunities to look for internships. I've had 3 internships and I am on my 3rd year of schooling. I'm graduating a little bit early, but I know, there are plenty of opportunities that if you wanted an internship every other semester, you could find it. There are a lot of opportunities like summer in LA or semester in LA, and then semester in DC. There's also the internship in New York that's offered to a couple students. So there's a lot of different opportunities, I think, to find internships, a lot more than you would realize.
I would just add, too, not to be shy to reach out to alumni who are working in the field that you're interested in, because I had a point where I think I had 10 Bobcats on my staff. And that was a good thing. So,
a very good thing.
Very good thing.
In the School of Journalism, we do actually require an internship, but I think what Lauren said is not unusual, that students will do multiple internships, and that's because faculty encourage it, and students quickly figure out that this is a great way to make connections with the Eileen Sheils of this world. So you need to get out there away from the safety, the bubble of Athens, the safety of the campus, to go out into spaces where you could actually be employed. Another question that came up from Jacob Walter is, what's the difference between admission into OU and the admissions into the Scripps School of Journalism? I think I can address this relatively quickly. When you're applying as a freshman to get into OU, you're asked what you want to major in, and you would select either news and information track or strategic communication track. They're both getting the same degree. They're both getting the Bachelor of Science in Journalism, the BSJ. When that application is looked at, the admissions office applies a slightly different scale, to get into the journalism school, because we want to make sure students are coming in as prepared as possible. It doesn't mean you have to be a Rhodes Scholar, to get into the School of Journalism. I think over the years it has seemed like a very scary, daunting thing, and oh my gosh, will I get into the School of Journalism? So I would encourage anybody interested in being a journalism major, apply as a freshman, because we want to get you in the door as soon as possible. You're going to take a class together with other freshmen, and I just want to give a shout out to Lauren, who was a great student in that class, and she was a great student because she asked a lot of questions. Every day I could count on Lauren asking a question, and I think that's the trait of a good journalist. I don't care if you're going into strategic communication or news and info, you have to ask questions if you don't understand something. So thank you for all the questions that have come in today. But there are times when the admissions office will say, well, we're not really sure about this candidate. So at that point, they actually ask us to look at those applications, and we make a determination. If for some reason we were to say no to that person, then that person has the opportunity to put together a full portfolio of written and other sample material. Could be videos, could be written material. And we will take another look at that file, because it's very possible that we missed something, or it's very possible that the GPA in high school, or certainly the test scores, just didn't tell the story enough. So we will take a look at that, and this is what's called on appeal, and you can be admitted on appeal. Now, if you don't get in on appeal, or if you came to Ohio University not knowing you wanted to be a journalism major, and then you got interested in it after you got here, you can then transfer into the School of Journalism after you've accumulated 30 semester credit hours. And there's a application process, for that. But what you can always do when you come in the door, no matter what your major is, you can get involved at these organizations that Lauren mentioned. And that has been a hallmark of the school ever since I came in 1987. And it impressed me thoroughly when I first arrived how engaged students were in the School of Journalism, but also as I learned more about other majors, it became clear to me that the same could be said for students across the university. So student engagement is a big part of what my career has made my career kind of an inspired career. Our students really inspire me by how they mentor each other, and I think mentoring is a very important part of your development, both to be mentored and to become a mentor. So when I see students mentoring others, I see that as a real win for the institution and for whichever major you happen to be connected to. I'm getting a flashing light up here. It has nothing to do with how much time we have. I think it has to do with the battery, so I will shut that off in just a second. But do either of you want to elaborate on anything that I was talking about on mentoring?
Well, for me, I can say as a student, that's one thing that is really important to, I know it's scary, trust me. I remember freshman year, but asking professors questions, even if you don't feel comfortable asking in front of the class, asking after class, whatever major you're in, building those relationships with your professors, because they all have long careers, they have connections, they know people. That's the foundation. Building it with your friends, talking to your peers, especially those who are older than you, they're more than willing to give you advice. I have not ever gotten one rejection from a student who, whether it was in the School of Business, the School of Arts and Sciences, the School of Communication, college of all those, was I've never gotten a rejection from someone offering to be my friend, offering to help me, offering studying. And I think that's something that really helps those connections with students, because they can help you grow as an individual as well as your academic career. And also not being afraid to reach out. I know it's easy for me to say because my mom is in the field that I am working in, but reaching out to those alumni is a very important thing as well. Asking, even it's something, do you remember going to Goodfellas, which is a pizza place on Court Street, when you were at OU, breaking the ice, talking to them, saying, hey, I'm a Bobcat, that will get you very, very far. And it sounds silly, but once you, or if you decide to go to OU, you will realize that that holds a lot of weight. And there's that mentorship between professionals and students, but also through other peers and also through the professors. And I think that's a really strong way to go out there, and it's a strong foundation of OU, but you just cannot be afraid to just say, hi, my name is Lauren Sheil. It's nice to meet you. I'm really interested in X, Y, and Z. And it opens a lot of doors.
How about you, Eileen?
I think Lauren summed it up pretty well, but, I think alumni definitely want to help. LinkedIn's a great place to find Bobcat alumni, so I would just encourage you to, seek us out.
I would also say, I was an RA for 2 years, and another thing, especially for incoming freshmen, or even if you're a transfer student, talking to your RAs and getting resources. You don't have to be their best friends, but they have a lot of resources for you to get connected to stuff as simple as, where do I find the best toothpaste, the cheapest toothpaste. And you can, there's little things like that I think is really special. There's a lot of connections on campus as well as off.
We had a question from Juliana Rittenberg, a second question from her, which was, she's a high school student who is at a high school that doesn't have a newspaper. Will that hurt her application? And I would say absolutely not. That first pass that we're looking at is test scores and GPA. We obviously would love to see some writing examples. And if you don't have a newspaper, honestly, you can start a blog, and we would be really impressed by that. You might be surprised that would be an important opportunity for you to showcase your work, but there's no harm in taking an opportunity like that to write. So I would encourage you to do that. But you could also do other things like start a podcast. If you can, figure out how to use your phone to record and upload it to Anchor, you can probably do that more easily than you realize. The last little pitch I would make is our high school journalism workshop. And the reason I want to pitch it is because this summer would have been the 75th annual high school journalism workshop. And unfortunately, because of COVID-19, we had to cancel the face-to-face version of that. But we do plan to make some materials available online, some tutorials that we think would be helpful. So we're in the process of developing those right now. But I also want to give a shout out to Eileen and Lauren, who both worked at our last high school journalism workshop, and I think it's a great example of what an alum can do to help the school, and a more senior student who can be a J Crew member. And when Lauren, I'm sure when you are an alum, you will come back to the high school journalism workshop and help out as well. But I think this is a way for high school students to come and check out the school and check out the university to see if it feels like a good fit. So stand by for this year. We'll punt to next year. And if you're graduating next year, even though you would be graduated by the summer of 2021, you can still come to the high school journalism workshop. So if you have any questions about that, just send another text message and we can make sure you get that. We're sort of wrapping up here. I'd like to offer the two of you one last opportunity to talk about, what does it mean to be a Bobcat? What's the core value or the core characteristic of a Bobcat if you had to just put it in one or two sentences?
Yeah, I'll start. I think Ohio University, just the campus and the connections you make, you're all in. It's about your education first and foremost. It's about connecting with other Bobcats and having that support that you need and you really want as you launch your career. I felt Ohio University was home. It really felt like a place where you're safe and you're comfortable, and it's a great learning environment, and it stays with you forever. So, Lauren?
I would say being a Bobcat is about being kind and having courage to do the right thing and standing up for yourself and others. I would say being a Bobcat has to do with connecting to others and to, learning and opening your mind to new experiences and things that are kind of scary. And I'd also say that being a Bobcat is finding your HOUME, so you're home but with a U. And I think that it's kind of also stepping out of your comfort zone and realizing who you are as an individual, but not only who you are, but who you can be. And I think that that's something that's really special.
Well, thanks to both of you very, very much. I appreciate getting to visit with you, whether it's an official Bobcat chat or just offline sometime. You're both wonderful examples of what it means to be a Bobcat. And I'm so glad that I've gotten to know both of you as part of my being a Bobcat.
Well, thank you, because you've just been so dedicated to the university and the students, and thanks for all you do.
And Dr. Stewart, you know how much I adore you. Thank you for being someone who is not only a mentor, but a friend and someone that I've come to in the best and the worst of times. And that's a really special thing.
Well, thank you for those kind words. And best of luck to you. Everybody stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask, even if the governor doesn't make you do it, because it's the right thing to do. And Eileen, thank you for all that your company is doing to try to meet needs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Tune in for another Bobcat chat. Check out the website for details when the next ones will be.
Hope to see you on campus, guys. And say hi if you see me. I'm very friendly. I talk a lot, so I'll definitely say hi back.
Okay, so we can hang up from Teams. Great to see you guys.
Okay, thanks.
Bye, Dr. Stewart.
Bye-bye.